Hello, what's your name? Where are you from? And what's your age?
Hi, my name is Gabriela Rivero. I am from Cuba and I'm 20 years old.
So tell me, what was your family's journey to come to the US?
So, my mom always was pushing my dad to get out of Cuba, and she got my dad um, an invitation from a university in Mexico for him to give like a lecture on what he did on his master's in Cuba. And the plan was my dad would stay there for 6 months to get residency, and he will claim us and we will all together cross the border to the United States. That was not possible because my dad had a tourist visa and he had no way to work, to get working visa. He needed the money because he left Cuba with $200. So it was a decision: either he stayed in Mexico and try to work below the radar and then get some money. Maybe along the way we will get there, um, cross the border, or go back to Cuba. And for us, going back to Cuba was not a possibility. We had sold everything for him to go to Mexico, and that was all our future. He crossed the border
Without a coyote.
without a coyote. Yeah, he took a taxi. So he called his friend here, and he told him what would be the best entrance for me, like the best entrance point. And he took a taxi. He went there, and that taxi had a permission to cross the border. So there are taxis in Mexico in that time that had permission to cross the border or that didn't. And my dad said, okay, just get me to the other side. And then he took a Grand Hood bus, and he was 2 days in the way to Miami. When he got to Miami, he immediately started looking for a job. And 2 months in here, he already had a job. And from that, I remember from that $200 that my dad arrived in Mexico, he was in the United States with 150 in Miami, and he would send us 100 back to Cuba. So my dad ended up in the United States with $50 at a friend's house until he got a job in 2 months. And that was, like, for me, the craziest thing ever. That didn't happen to me, but it's still an example for me. And my dad, at a year and a half, a year and 5 months, he got his green card in the United States and he claimed us. From that point, we were 4 years apart, and he would go back and forth to Cuba and take us. He would always try to take us to the beach or trying to get us out of that regular life that we were having, that he knew that even though he was sending us money, we were having all those struggles. And we came in a very conventional way. We came in a plane, and I remember that day was the whole day in a plane. I would not believe it. I got here. My dad picked us up at the airport. We went to Chili's. It was the first restaurant that we went to. And that whole year for me was like different. It was like I don't know what's going on for a whole year.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable, yeah.
How was your life before getting out of Cuba?
My childhood, I was always very protected by my parents, and they almost like keep me in a bubble from everything that they were against of. They didn't want me to, and I've talked to them about this after. They didn't want me to have that predisposition in my daily life, because when you're a kid there, you're going to school, you're not choosing to believe in something, you are being taught to believe in that. So you go to school and you at 7 a.m. you stand up in a line, and they tell you what to do. You sing the national anthem. The national anthem of Cuba is a war anthem, and then you say, students for communism, we will be like Che Guevara. And it's like you do that every day for I don't know how many years in primary school. In that time, you're not aware, you're a child, you're not aware of the things, you're not aware of anything political, you're just having friends, building a life. So my life, I guess my dad always tried to make it look like if it was the best out of a bad situation. Then my dad came here. I was in boarding school at 12 to 14 years old. My dad came to the United States, and I got out of boarding school and I went home with my mom. We had no internet, so it was very hard to communicate with my dad. And at home, we would have the money because my dad was sending us the money. We would be not in the average, we would be above the average of economic standards, but it was still, we would have to get only what was necessary for the moment, because we had that vision of coming here. My dad went there, my dad would send us money and we would have everything to eat, but still we didn't have water. We had to run 2 blocks to get the water. My brother was very little, and I think it was not the worst as is now, because even if now you have money, you cannot get your basic needs. You cannot get food, toilet paper, soap, shampoo, things that are basic care needs. But I think now with internet and those extremes of bad situations and necessities is what have gotten people woken, and people that when I was my age we weren't aware of what was going on. People that are my age, that were my age, now they are, and they are realizing the stuff that I didn't have to.
What have your challenges been ever since in the US?
Well, I've been in the US for it's going to be 5 years now, and it is a short time, but it has felt like a lifetime, because I think my biggest challenge is doing everything I did in 15 years growing up. I had to redo it here. The language, the lifestyle, the community, everything to get to the point that I was at 15 years old. Everything I did growing up, I had to do it in very short time in here. For example, when I was applying for schools, I got here at 11th grade, and applying for universities, I did not really knew the process of applying FAFSA, university, SATs. So I applied to only one school, because that, since I was in music, in the University of Miami, the music department, the clarinet head of the department, she loved me, and she said, you don't have to do an audition here. If the school accepts you, you will come. So I applied. Automatically I get acceptance for the music school, but the university did not accept me. Of course, I had extremely low SAT scores. I had my GPA was not really good either, and I was like devastated, but at the same time I did not felt the same pressure that if that happened to me right now I would feel, because I did not have the same goals or expectations for myself. I did not have everything that you gain when you open your mind in a system that allows you to do basically anything you want. So I think that that's been my biggest challenge, and I feel like I'm a completely different person right now in terms of knowledge of the world. I mentioned in Cuba, they had internet after I came here, so I did not really understood the possibilities that being in this place had offered me.